Florin and Christoph Schmidt, aka Low Bros, the spray paint wielding brothers behind some of the most famous murals around the world. Welcome to the Creative Blood Experience.
Thanks, Laura.
Pleasure. Here's the thing. You are actual brothers, which I adore. I would ask why you're here in London, but I do actually know. We've been working together. Tell us about that project.
Yeah, so we just finished a big project here in London. We painted a big tennis court, like actually a double court. I mean, the great thing about the project was that it's not like this kind of elite private tennis club we painted for, but it's in an area where you would maybe usually suggest like having basketball courts there. And that's exactly what we would criticize about tennis, that it's kind of like not that easily accessible and open to everyone. So that was a pretty nice project.
If you're talking about the world's best tennis players, in our mind, it always gets like, the world's best players who have access to these sports, because you don't know who are the world's best or could have been the world's best.
In this case, we met the community, we met the people from the tennis club, and the whole court was in pretty rough condition and they were kind of ashamed of it. And so we were thinking, give them something that empowers them and make them really proud of, to invite other people there to play. So we wanted to have it like really sporty and energetic and contrasted with the neon yellow of the tennis balls. We have like the whole range from red to blue with all the purples in between and the green of the floral elements. Yesterday was the big opening with Roger Federer on site, and we actually finished a day before, just in time, working 12-hour shifts a day for almost 14 days now. So we're glad to be here. We're quite exhausted, but also super happy and relieved.
That says everything about who you are. It's incredible. It's awesome. In my hand here, I have 50 cards. Each card contains one question designed to reveal how you have navigated your creative experience so far and share something useful that our listeners can take into their own creative lives. Do you have any questions for me?
No, but it seems you have a couple of us.
I have a few for you. I'm going to have 10, specifically 10. You're going to select 10 cards from the deck. Neither of us will know what they are, but first I need to shuffle the deck. And whilst I do, allow me to introduce you to our listeners. Low Bros. Born in Hamburg in the early 80s. Florin, you were born first. And then 2.5 years later, Christoph, you came along. With a tight fraternal bond, you grew up surrounded by the city's vibrant street art, graffiti, hip-hop and skate cultures. You officially became the art duo Low Bros in 2011 and garnered international attention following a pivotal feature in Juxtapose magazine in 2013. 10 years later, you've exhibited in solo and group shows around the world, partnered with brands from Apple to Nike and even the German post office. I need a visual on that. And your murals and site-specific installations have become global art destinations in LA, Tel Aviv, Vancouver and Hong Kong, to name a few. You've described yourselves as brothers with very different personalities and with art as your common base. Your aesthetic is unmistakable, whether creating paintings, screen prints, super-scale murals, light installations, and even jewellery. It's a chaotic and dreamy airbrush world rendered with scalpel-like graphic precision with a palette of neon synthetic sunset tones. Both iconic and iconoclastic, your anthropomorphic animals, dystopian reimaginings of global brands, and abstract digital shapes and architecture are deeply indebted to digital culture. And yet, your process is painstakingly analogue, using acrylic paint, aerosols, and more recently, paper and glue. Common themes in your work are society and identity in the digital age, the tension between nostalgia and progress, the relationship between nature and the urban environment, and indeed, consumption culture. And so, Florin and Christoph, it is my pleasure to have you here in person in our studio, surrounded as we are by some of the UK's finest street art here in Shoreditch. Are you ready to play?
Yeah, let's do it.
Excellent. Because there are two of you, I'm going to ask Christoph, you to hold the cards, and Florin, for you to pick 10.
All right. 2, 4, 6.
Yeah, hurry up. Otherwise the podcast is over.
No, really. Last one. This one.
All right. If you pass me those, perfect. All right. I'm going to start. Question 1.
Very good.
What are some strategies that you use for staying inspired and nurturing your creativity?
Yeah, the inspiration question, which is usually hard to answer. But when you ask about strategies, it will be, I think, either we really shut ourselves like in our studio and try to have as less noise as possible around us, but also just change the environment and go for a walk maybe. Or we sometimes do it for bigger projects. We really go on the countryside, have no distraction, and really think and talk about like the topic we want to tackle or the solutions we want to find. But also what we quite like is to go to art museums or really good gallery shows. And that's also how we found out what makes good art for us. For us, it has to be inspirational, not a story that is like completely told until the end. And so you don't really have to think about it anymore, but things that kind of get you a little bit out of your comfort zone.
How about you, Chris?
Yeah, I would say that a source of inspiration is definitely the topics we talk about, like social and political issues. These kind of questions then come up, or like this, how you say, like when you have the feeling you can't do anything about the situations we are in, and then you need this place where you can put your feelings in.
In Germany, you would say a ventil, right? To release some of the stress you build up in our works, even if it's not maybe like super obvious. Yeah, this is kind of a relief for us, definitely.
Yeah. And I think it's so important for everyone to have like this creative expression where you can leave your emotions too. Yeah. If you don't have this way of leaving it out.
Venting.
They don't have this place, and so they screaming it to everyone. Like in the internet nowadays, all these hate comments. Instead of, I don't know.
But then they leave it in that place and someone has to read it.
Yeah, exactly.
And they have no idea
it's so bad,
how it can change somebody's day or life.
Or
if there's multiple.
Let them play, let them paint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let them paint.
Yeah, let them paint, exactly.
Question 2. What conversation do you wish you could have had again, and with whom?
What would come to my mind would be actually what we just talked about, like social media comments. We usually don't get much backlash with our work, but during Black Lives Matter, we couldn't stop thinking about and reading about like what racism does, what our privileges are, and what we could do. We were in the middle of planning an exhibition. We had to change the whole subject to deal with racism in a way which was quite hard. I think it was with the Check Your Privilege wall we've painted, and then someone was like a little bit provoking about like, oh, that's just not true. What a shitty concept. And we reacted kind of too emotionally. And the mistake we did is to make assumption about a person. And so we, kind of gave a bad answer to this. And we would have given a better answer, I guess.
Out of 100 comments, you only saw the one negative. You only
that's what
remember the
happens.
one negative comment.
Exactly.
It's so powerful. It's frightening because that can change everything. And they're living their truth and they're giving you what they think is the response they want to give. But you were living yours in that moment, which is why you made the piece of work.
Yeah. Since 2020, we read so many books about like discrimination, racism, and all the intersection within. And I think there are a lot of conversations we would have differently. You're better prepared.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to stop the German. Question number 3. Have you ever taken on a project that challenged your values or your beliefs? And if so, how did you handle it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
You know, we come from graffiti and are quite political in a way. And it was a big subject of selling out. Like we won't like to work with certain companies.
Yeah. Also, sometimes you don't know in the beginning, the project sounds nice and you think you have all the informations you need. And then you get certain informations which makes you doubt the project, but you're in it, you know?
I think usually we take a lot of time to really think it through. And then there's also like a lot of gut feeling. Actually, like we're kind of like, we don't really like the system we're in. We don't really like capitalism and what it does to a lot of people, but that's the system we're in. And like working commercially, we're never 100% like fully like, that's also perfect.
Yeah, we can name tons of projects probably that we said no to. Like even if we were struggling money-wise, we said like no, and no one will ever see that. But if you say yes to certain projects, then people might criticize you for that, and it's weird.
Makes sense.
I think like even before we got vegan, we would have said no to any meat producing company. Maybe yes to some dairy, because we were not aware of how cruel that industry is.
Yeah.
Or like, for example, tobacco. We would never do anything for a tobacco company. But then on the other hand, like liquor company, okay. It's just important, I think, to have these conversations. And we're all not perfect, but let's talk about it.
Yeah. Okay, right. So question number 4. What is the biggest challenge that you have faced in your career?
Oh, that was probably the past 2 weeks.
Oh, crikey, the project that we're talking about together.
Yeah, but honestly, it was like there was so much knowledge required. Like it's a whole profession to paint these courts, like to paint on tarmac. We didn't know the surface until a week before. And we're standing on this huge space. I mean, like we know this size like in vertical space, and even painted like a similar size on corrugated metal, but we did that 3 or 4 times until we know how to tackle that specific surface. And yeah, there were really times during this project because like it built up on such a huge like media event. Roger Federer is going to be there. Like he only has like this specific day in his calendar where he had time, and everyone was so excited about it. And we're standing on this empty court, like, how should we ever get this done in time?
What did you feel like when you saw the court for the first time?
Okay, yeah,
doable. That's doable. That's okay. I mean, we told on forehand, like, you guys, that is crazy to do that. We can try our best to deliver it, but we can't promise anything actually, because it's just wild to think to get this done within this short amount of time.
Thrown a thunderstorm. We had like a 30-minute thunderstorm.
So much drama.
And the moment when it started to rain, at that point we really thought like, okay, that was it. We called our agent and said like, bad news over here. Like it seems like we're not going to make it.
That's maybe a good chance to give it an insight in some of our projects that are maybe not that much pressure on, like in this one, but they have their certain budgets. And so you have this time frame with a lot of murals we have, like, like the flights are booked. The lift costs like from 300 to 800 euros a day. You don't know about the weather before or anything. And we often have the gut feeling that we know like at what point we need to do the extra hours, and we finish somehow always on point, but we never thought about like, okay, what's like when it's not going to work out. And we usually do like, especially like in the exhibitions or some bigger projects where we plan in so many extra details, but then we learn for ourselves at some point, no one will ever notice what's missing in the end.
Of course.
Yeah. And for us, it was often like a healthy process to like leave certain things away, and later thought like, oh, they would have been a bit too much. So it's kind of a cleaning process when you're like under time pressure in the end. But with this court, we had to fill like all the gaps. There's no chance of leaving anything away.
I think it's funny because you talk about how do you know how to plan for something like this, or how long will it actually take? But we know from doing the project, you finished the night before.
Yes, classic.
So my lads say that's your German precision coming in.
You know what's funny, that we never think about ourselves as being like so German, or is it like really true about Germans, like being precise, being on time? And then while was traveling, we really found out like, okay, maybe.
You were early today. You picked a dealer's choice, lucky for me. And I wanted to ask you this question. It's around brotherhood. On your Facebook, you've posted a gorgeous picture of you both as kids reading comic books together, tucked up in bed. And in the caption, you mentioned that you were super close as kids, but that in your youth, after childhood, you went your own separate ways before coming back together. So I'd love to know more about that. And where did you go separately? And what was the moment that brought you back together to this common art base and the creation of Low Bros?
I could maybe start with that. Like from the age difference of 2.5 years, we're in the childhood really close. by age, but then in the youth, there's really the gap where you I had this moment really like hanging with my friends, and at some point I got to experience like, okay, childhood is over now. Like we're serious. Like it was all like a bit like hip hop and gangster and whatever. And so it was more about like, okay, like smoking weed, drinking, parties and so on. But what Chris was a little bit too young for that. And that's like looking back on it, like it's a bit heartbreaking for me, because I think like he felt like he was a little bit left out while I moved on with my friends. But then also I think like in a good way, he had a chance to kind of develop on his own until we got together again.
For me, it was then that I like got in touch with a lot of people. I was really communicative. I had like several friendship circles. We were like open, easy, not the tough way. We were always making fun about ourselves. That helped really in the development of being more self-confident, I would say, like making jokes about yourself and your mistakes. And yeah, I found to skateboarding. I skated a lot. Flo started graffiti a little bit earlier.
Yeah, but I then already tried to, I had my phase, and then I was like, oh, now I could really have my brother back just for some like hanging out and so on. But he was always surrounded by his friends like every day, and I was so annoyed by that.
Yeah, and one day he was asking me like, Chris, come on, there's this insane concrete factory. It's just like 45 minutes by train, like out of town, and you have to see this, you have to join. Like, why not? Because the first attempts on painting, I was joining, it was like more like tagging, and I was trying also, and it was not feeling like the right thing for me, even if we always sketched a lot and everything. But at that day, he was like, I tried again, like make like a style, like letters, and come with us, like try experience it. And so I said yes. I did a style, sketched one up, unpacked some cans, and then we drove out there, and that was just like youth paradise out there. The sun was shining. We had a little barbecue. We went in this abandoned buildings on top and had a look at the place, and then we painted. And I was feeling like so relieved and free. And it's like, oh, it's nice. And you feel also feeling like so cool until the friends came like, oh, it's your first one, right? And so it took me a while to keep up and go to the point where we were on a similar level. We joined the same crews, and this crew split up, and we were the only ones left over.
You could say like that really graffiti brought us back together, that we had one common thing to share. And we later thought that's also quite interesting and cool aspect about graffiti, that is supernatural to collaborate with different kind of people, and you adapt really quick. And so this background helps us a lot to work together, but also collaborate with other people also from different fields.
I also have to say that since Flo was already a little bit further in the graffiti thing, he painted together with really talented graffiti painters. So that pushed up the level for me, what is normal to paint. And so it was, I was quicker in my development. It was easier. Level. And I think this is what kids experience nowadays.
Yeah.
Back then we were surrounded by the ones we know, and then that was the limit, and that was the best. And nowadays you have the best of the best, which is like your new normal, or like not normal, but like this is
what you see on Instagram or YouTube.
This is where you can get at. And so it's high pressure.
Yeah. And I'm just wondering, like the name Low Bros, don't want to state the obvious, but the bros, I'm assuming, is you guys.
Pretty obvious.
And what's the low?
So we wanted to kind of show our roots, that we don't come from like an academy. Like our roots are in these like lowbrow arts. So when you think about the concept of highbrow and lowbrow, we thought like graffiti and skateboarding, that's kind of the lowbrow arts. And yeah, take that with us. Lowbrow, low bros.
Love it. Great name. Right, next question. I'm going to ask you both separately. Chris, who is the person that challenges you the most?
It's okay if I need to say it's probably myself, to be honest. But I'm 38 now, and I heard that a lot of people, like when they become like 36, started to reflecting on themselves and what they are doing. And the perfectionism, like I'm just trying to figure out where that comes from, and I'm trying to work on that to be not that hard on me. Because every time I would do something wrong, I would be so hard on me, like, oh, are you stupid? Like, how could that happen? And somehow I also do it like sometimes with others, if like they don't deliver like I expected it to be, but I'm not that harsh. And then to myself, I'm extra hard. And then I needed to think like, hey, why? why is it necessary to be like that? And then I learned about it and figured out like, oh, well, that's more like survival strategy, like in your childhood. So somehow our parents seems to expected that from us, especially our father, I would guess. It's like to don't make that much mistakes. And so I learned to be friend with my inner child and just to say like, hey, it's okay. It's next time you will do better. And then to figure out, hey, you couldn't know. It's the first time you did that. So next time you do it, you will do it a different way.
Amazing. Florin?
Yeah, first I would have said Chris, because his perfectionism and like he can be really acting like a boss. Because he's definitely like the motor, the one who like helps to get shit done. So yeah, he will definitely challenge me a lot. But after his answer, I also have to say like there's also a lot of like me and myself and involved in this challenge, like when it comes to like self-acceptance, self-love, and to be right.
I think it's a big thing to be able to not only acknowledge it, but also take the time to take a look. I think it happens at a certain point in our lives because you sort of don't take yourself off and go, who am I? Someone goes, you're this or you're that. And then it forces you to take a bit of a deeper look. It's
crazy to adapt this and telling this to yourself, right?
Yeah.
Is it also that you kind of be to yourself like, don't do this.
Exactly.
That was stupid.
Yeah. No, it's hard. Okay. Question, Zeben. How do you filter feedback and criticism?
Like constructive criticism, we love it. If it's honest and it helps us to get further. But like a critique in a way which is just this is dumb or something. That doesn't help in any way and it's just offending.
Yeah, it can be quite provoking.
It can be provoking.
Because you're still, like as artists, you're still sensitive in a way. Because like when you show people something new, some people would laugh about it because it's just not they know. But we learn to really use constructive feedback or criticism. It might not be in the same second as we receive it. So we need to filter that first. And it's like, oh yeah, actually there's truth in it. And sometimes it's even so provoking because you know there's truth in it. And then it bothers you a lot.
That happens.
Yeah. In the end, it's really helpful.
Yeah.
And it's also like a sign. And that's also what we have to learn to like polarize a little bit, to not please everyone, because then like it's boring.
And everyone's just got a different point of view anyway, so you can't.
And the other critic like can bother you sometimes, even just because you know you can't have like a longer conversation to talk about it, and you know it will never happen. It won't make any sense. And so yeah, you take it a little bit with you, and then you leave it somewhere.
You have to because I guess you build up that resilience.
Yeah, resilience is really important.
It's so important. You may have just answered the next question.
Great.
What's the most important skill for success in your field?
So you'd say resilience?
Well done. Okay. Do you really think that?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you say resilience, what does that mean to you?
Creating art and being creative, you need a lot of sensitivity, right? But sensitivity also could make you quite vulnerable when it comes to criticism. In the same way, this kind of resilience to deal with all these obstacles and circumstances, that's a really helpful skill to just keep on doing what you believe in and follow your vision.
Yeah.
What's the most ridiculous? I can't wait for this from you guys. I'm just thinking of the scale and the, bananas elements to what you're creating in often. But what is the most ridiculous request that you've ever received from a client, and how did you respond?
All right. Do we think about the same?
I feel like you've got one.
Yeah,
okay.
we think about the same.
So that was a couple of years ago, and we got asked whether we want to be part of a commercial shoot, and it was for a perfume brand. And it would be us driving in a Mustang through the desert.
We talking a 60s Mustang or a 2022 Mustang?
I would think of a 60s.
Yeah,
okay, good. Yeah.
And driving through the desert, ending up at a gas station. And while we fill up the tank, we would paint and truck or something that stands there. And as soon as it's over, like we would jump in the car and then go back. And
That's one hell of a tank you must have been filling up.
Yeah,
right. Like
it sounded so ridiculous, and so we were, like how would that be received? But
we were tempted. We were really tempted to be honest.
Like thinking about it now, we thought like it would have been so funny to have this footage. Like,
would have been a funny anecdote.
Yeah.
Why did you say no, or did you say no, or it didn't come off in the end?
Sort of like idealism in a way, and also like it would really make the serious art we're doing like seem a little bit ridiculous. It's really like through the advertiser's gaze.
It's also like old directors, how they think the youth acts or interacts.
One thing is that we would not have been in control on the set. I'm super sure about that.
This is something we learned about like during our time. Is like always check with whose people you're working with and check their work. And
check their work. 1,000,000%.
Yeah, because you might end up in like a silly situation where you can't do nothing about it, and then
and you maybe would do like certain things in that situation of pressure, and there's a whole team around you, a time frame, a budget, and you don't want to like fuck everyone up. But the idea of it, like driving through the desert in a Mustang,
it's pretty awesome.
Quite awesome, yeah.
So, last question. What do you think is the most important quality for a creative to have? So anyone in art, a creative mind, a maker, what do you think is the one thing, the one non-negotiable?
I would say like never grow completely up.
Playfulness is definitely super important. It's always hard to break it down to one. And I never like this, what's your favorite dish? What's your favorite color? And so on.
Yeah, yesterday when we were on the field with the media on the tennis court event with Federer, and Federer was giving advice. He was asked like, what is your advice for the kids to become a good tennis player? And he was saying, kids, if you want to be a good tennis player, listen to your teachers, listen to your parents. They will show you how it works and so on. I was hoping they were asking us, because if they would have asked us the question, I would have responded, kids, if you want to become professional tennis players, listen to your teachers and your parents. And if you want to become artists, don't listen to them.
It's like, listen, but don't listen.
Yeah.
Take it like, in, but filter for yourselves.
Yeah. Because listen to your parents would mean like do exactly the same that has been done before. And it's, like we want to get forward. We want to like explore new ideas, explore new visions and all of that. And
so make your own rules.
Yeah, make your own rules. And also like for kids, for example, it's like, how should the parents nowadays know like what the jobs in the future will look like? Give them the tools to be self-confident and all of that, but then let them make their own trials and errors.
That is literally all 10 questions. You've been absolute gentlemen to answer with such heart and soul. It really means a lot. Thank you so much.
First of all, I want to thank you for this nice therapy session.
Oh, crikey, I'm a therapist.
It's not always easy for us to talk in that way, because we're like grew up differently, especially as men, to be like any like vulnerable or like make the perfect performance, when we step in front of a camera or microphone. And this really feels like a kind of safe environment where we really could be like that and could share everything like that. What's like actually our nature to do that. Like in private conversations, we would talk like that.
Of course, yeah.
So thanks for that. Thanks for giving the opportunity.
Thanks for that.
Thank you. Yeah, awesome. Before we head off, is there anything that you want to share or anything that you think would be interesting for people to know about?
Yeah. First of all, we definitely have to get back into the studio process, because we're planning on doing a show in Paris end of the year, and there'll be a lot of works that needs to be painted.
Yeah, we have another project for a social business, a hotel, Viva Con Agua. It's from our hometown, it's a brand, and they collect money to build wells in African countries. We'll do a wall there, and then we will have a jewellery collaboration, hopefully coming up end of this year. We try to make it happen during Miami Art
together
Basel.
With Studio Cold. Check them, check her, check Julia's stuff.
Incredible work.
It's really cool, and it matches so good to our imagery and our world. Like really two worlds coming together, and it's so much fun to collaborate in this and work together.
Incredible. All right, well look, thanks a million for everything, and let's get you back home. You're about to jump on a plane.
Yeah, weekend off and then
Back in it.
Back in the studio.
Yeah.
Well done. Amazing. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you don't miss a single drop of the Creative Blood experience by subscribing and following the show wherever you listen to your podcasts, and share it with a fellow creative. Let's get these conversations out there and into the ears of those who need to hear them. This show was created in partnership with the brilliant humans here at Creative Blood and Scenery Studios. Thanks for listening.